Hi, I'm Alex Cole. Welcome to the Steamhouse building, where it all began for us. We've been working with Steamhouse and business and the Birmingham City University movement around STEAM and STEM for quite some time. We've been based here with our business TIN Smart Social, which was asked to write a business case by the West Midlands Combined Authority to look at retrofitting homes across the West Midlands. Many of those homes are in fuel poverty, so that was an added challenge. And so we were looking at across the entire supply chain and how we would engage with local people. What kind of products could we offer as part of that proposition, and what could the combined authority and local authorities do to scale that opportunity and scale the program across the West Midlands? So that was the challenge. It was a tough one. We only had 4 or 5 months to do that. We were then asked to do that as a Green Book investment case to government, which added another layer of complexity, because that was a standard format into Treasury, which was requesting a multi-million pound sum of money. So we had to comply with that. So the task for us was really just to come up with concepts and ideas, and the reason why we set up Midlands High Growth, which is the company that we're going to be talking about today, was to actually prove the business case, not just write the business case, but come up with ideas that where we could test and learn and come up with proof of concepts, which then, instead of just writing it, we could then do it. So what you're going to hear from us over the course of this film is going to be really about how we've done that and who we've worked with and why we're doing it, I guess. But the why is really important to me personally and to us. We think there are multiple challenges in the home and obviously that's been exacerbated by COVID. So we want to support that activity. We want to come up with really good ideas that will help families, help people who are in a really tough situation right now as part of a Build Back Better proposition, but also people who are in digital poverty and fuel poverty who are really struggling right now to make their home work for them. We think that's a cause or a campaign that we certainly want to support and get involved with. So the next phase of the second phase of our activity up after the business case was really looking at, as I said, Midlands High Growth and how we were going to actually come up with the concepts that we could then test and learn on. We came up with 3 concepts. One of them, Doorway, which was a external wall insulation and roofing solution in one, which would completely transform the cost and also the time taken to fit a wall insulation and roof solution to a home from a number of weeks to days. And so that we put together those applications and those concepts and into applications into Innovate UK's SBRI program, and part of that those concepts were described as a bid, and we were lucky enough to be awarded 3 of those 3 bids, 3 grants for those bids. So those projects kicked off in October of 2020, and there were 9-month projects which complete in June this year. So we're actually in the process of completing those projects now. Doorway was our project that we led as Midlands High Growth. The other 2 projects, Top Roofs and Ventive, are projects that we are supporting and partnering on. So we're predominantly going to be talking about Doorway here. The Doorway project has involved a number of supply chain partners. You're going to be hearing from a lot of them in terms of why they've been involved and how they've been involved. So I hope you enjoyed listening to this film, and feel free to get involved and contact us at any point.
dust spreads in the air. 2 dark days, do you have a tear to spare? Make a promise, the world awaits. It's heavy just breathing through this debate. Start a riot. When they love you too much, know it's fake, fake, or even hate. Don't be scared if the weight paralyzes you, stayed at the gate. No, it's a lot to take in, it's designed to know when, don't wait. Don't be scared when the weight paralyzes you, stayed at the gate.
We're here in the Steamhouse Incubator as this is the location for our DigiSheds program. DigiSheds is our employability and skills program, which looks at unpacking digital skills and employability skills for young people and older people who are a long way away from employment. And that the reason why that's significant is part of the Midlands High Growth and Innovate UK projects was really looking at the training and unpacking the training and the skills required for the entire supply chain. So from design, the design of the products to looking at how we would assess those homes, taking all of those activities and breaking them down into skills that we think can be trained to unemployed people from scratch. So they weren't skills that needed many years of training, but actually weeks and months. So that program, that skills program, has been a central part of what we've been doing with Innovate UK, and the training and the activity and the playbooks we've created. So playbooks in our language is really just about how do you systematically do a piece of work, in what order and in terms of the process and the procedures required to do that. So we designed a number of playbooks as part of the skills program, which we're going to be able to show you and showcase for you after the Innovate UK projects have completed. So do look out for those.
You're like a circle that floats around me, keeping me safe and sound. And when I fall, you tied a rope to me. You're blessing me every day. I was down with an illusion, like a sparrow with broken wings. But now I shine with your reflection on me. I'm getting back up on my feet. That you showed up was written in my palm. You are a statement, explode like a bomb. I get to push myself to victory. You make me winner. You cut me loose and set me free. You make me win in every way. You showed me how to spread my wings. Yes, I'm the winner of the day. You cut me loose and set me free. You make me win in every way. You showed me how to spread my wings. Yes, I'm the winner of the day. Yes, I'm the winner, yeah. 'Cause I'm the winner, yes. Am I awake or am I dreaming? So far gone, I won't look back. And when I move, there ain't no stopping me. You're pushing me up to the top. I saw the clouds looking angry, but then the sky reached my mind. And when I space out, I see the possibilities unfolding the way that I want. That you showed up was written in my palm. You are a statement, explode like a bomb. I get to push myself to victory. You make me winner. You cut me loose and set me free. You cut me loose. You make me win in every way. Win in every way. You show me how to spread my wings. Yes, I'm the winner of the day. You cut me loose and set me free. You make me win in every way. You show me how to spread my wings. Yes, I'm the winner of the day.
My name's Don Cole. I'm the project manager for Midlands High Growth. My main day-to-day activities is kind of liaising with everyone, making sure that everybody has everything they need to get their jobs done. Also monitor each of the different work packages. So that's all the different teams, everything that they're working on, and make sure that everyone's moving towards their intended targets, see within the timescales allotted. But it's not as boring as that. It's much more fun. I joined Midlands High Growth in December 2020. I initially joined as a retrofit installer, which is somebody who installs the doorway system onto someone's home. It was purely by, I suppose, good timing that I actually eventually became project manager. I began as interim project manager, so I was just sitting in on meetings, taking notes, sending emails, but wasn't doing much leading in terms of the project itself. And then around, I think I'll say maybe February, March, I became full project manager, which meant I was in charge of like the whole project, which was, yeah, it was, I suppose you could say it was daunting, to say the least. Obviously, go from, suppose, just being a retrofit installer, which was, I was just learning mainly construction stuff, to having to actually learn project management, which is a completely different field that I'd never worked in before. But it was good. It was good. I enjoyed it. And what led me to become interested in this project was I was having a meeting with Alex in August 2020. There was a few of us there, and he was just talking about Midlands High Growth and what he intended to do with it. Like the whole process was from beginning to end, like his entire vision, and it was the positive impact that it would have on people's lives that wanted me to be involved, because you can't underestimate how important it is to have a warm home. It's something that people, if you have one, you just take it for granted. But if you've ever sat in a cold house before, and you just know it makes you feel sad, it also makes you sick. And that's not fair. Everyone deserves to have a warm home. Everyone deserves to feel safe and happy at home. So that's why I wanted to become part of the project. It's been life-changing for me, because I'd never worked in project management at all before. I've never done anything like this, nothing to do with supposed research and development. I'd never done anything to do with even EWI. I'd worked as a plasterer before, so I'd understood about insulation and plasterboard, but even rendering homes, but just it's all brand new to me, like working with engineers, architects, even the guys at TechnoBuild, the software engineers. It's all fascinating. Even sitting down with guys from the BCU that do surveying and was it Point Cloud, all these things, everything was brand new to me. So yeah, it's been eye-opening, life-changing. I just enjoyed every single minute of it.
Hi, my name is Taran Singh and I'm the director of Taran 3D. We're an immersive technologies training company and we specialize in interactive visualization. Our role in the project is to use our experience of working in the architectural industry for the past 15 years to develop a training program that will enable the project by training a team of scanning and processing specialists. This team will be given a comprehensive training program in the use of the latest Matterport scanners to digitize existing residential properties into point cloud laser scans. Matterport synthesizes immersive 3D images with spatial and measurement data that can be explored by anyone in the world with an internet connection. One person can visit a site and capture it better than a team of photographers using still photography. We'll also be training a team of CAD processing experts who will process these scans into BIM models ready for retrograde design and fit. Point cloud laser scans from 3D scanners are indispensable tools for modeling and carrying out design work for existing buildings. The training program will allow architecture and construction professionals to collaborate and to leverage technology to capture existing site conditions, helping them to efficiently measure and digitally recreate buildings and spaces. These digital models can then be imported into standard BIM modeling workflows to create work sets and accurately plan new services and fixtures. With the vast number of residential properties that will need to be scanned and processed, we need to ensure that our team is ready to go and gets it right the first time. We will be implementing an online training system, meaning candidates can access learning from anywhere, as well as a physical on-site training program exploring the workspace interface and best practices for field scanning operations, streamlining the process and ensuring maximum efficiency and speed. We will also be leveraging the latest immersive technologies to allow house owners and partners to visualize and experience scanned environments using the latest augmented and virtual reality technology.
I'm really happy that the project is now going to enter the stage where we are going to actually use the whole thing that we've developed on a real situation. Nigel with ACOX Green, I think, is a real good case to test out the process, to make it more streamlined, and to see how the actual benefits will be realized to the homeowners. I'm sure that with the distance we have traveled so far and the digital approach that we have used, we will be able to do a really good job in the projects that we are going to get now. I think one of the key points that I want to add here is that we don't want to do a project management kind of an approach. It is going to be more of a collaborative project execution. I think that is a very key point. All the stakeholders will get connected through the tech stack. I think the approach that we are using is not of a project management, but it is of a project engagement. All these stakeholders will now be connected, as you will get maximum visibility by the use of the tech stack. And I think one of the key issues that this whole retrofitting industry faces is of inconvenience and not having that visibility. I think where we have reached right now with the tech stack, we are a good way ahead and on our way to kind of realizing efficiencies. I think once we do the whole scan to build process on a real house, I think we would have achieved the objectives and we would be on our way to actually making this a reality.
I'm John Morehouse. I'm Research Director at Constructive Thinking Architects. We came to the Doorways project in March of this year to bring experience of panel design and in the field retrofit deployment to the project. We've been working on houses like this one in Nottingham, built in the 1960s and incredibly in need of refurbishment, and in particular improved air tightness and insulation. So the chance to work on a panel system that's easily deployable in the field and manufactured off-site and installed by semi-skilled labour with minimal disturbance to the residents was something that we couldn't refuse. The challenge of these properties, even though many of them look the same, is they all have different measurements and every panel has to be unique. But yet we want to transfer all the benefits of mass production in a factory to produce these panels at scale. There's potentially 20 million houses to insulate across the UK, and we're going to have to use manufacturing technology to achieve this in the numbers and the time scale that we want to. So the first challenge for us really is just capturing the dimensions of these properties. And working with TechnoBuild, we've been able to assist in developing a system where we can rapidly scan the properties and transfer that scanned data through computer software to a system of measurement. And then what we've been able to do is design a digital modelled system for the panels that we can stretch to fit those scans. The system we've designed is a self-supporting structural panel which is insulated but also cut to size to fit on the correct element of the building. These work for walls and roofs, with the wall supporting the roof, and they're multi-layered, so there is a metal frame which is insulated with a back plate and a base plate that gives the panel some structure, and then a weatherproof layer and a final layer which can be changed to fit the appearance of whichever property it's going to be installed on. These are designed to run on a production line, so they're designed on a particular modular scale, and they can run off the production line and then be stacked on mobile toast racks and delivered to site for deployment in order. The interesting thing about the panel software is we can stretch the panel to fit the scan of the building, and all of the dimensions and specifications contained within the software will change. also been working with a control engineer who has been able to specify sensors to be put in the panel such that we can pick up temperature flow, air tightness, relative humidity, carbon dioxide in the air, and so on, and relay this information to a central console. The process has been great. There was a lot of good groundwork accomplished before we entered the project. So the ideas were already there and the challenges had been isolated. So it was a very fast learning curve for me, understanding how physical data was being captured from site, and then how the production line challenges had already been understood. So the process was quite interesting in that none of us had met, so most meetings were conducted online. We managed very well in teams. Don, the project manager, was great for introducing everybody to each other and making sure that we all had whatever facility we needed. And then partway through the project we organised a visit to Manufacturing Technology Centre, and most of the project team or representatives of the project team arrived there, and we met in person, which was vital for ironing out some of the design issues that we still had. The process has been great, not least in so much as the project team were largely assembled when we joined the group, and many of the really challenging problems had been identified, if not solved. So as a designer, we were able to draw those problems in and start to resolve them quite quickly because the expertise was already there across the field. It was challenging a little bit in so much as we were all communicating by teams, and the locations of people were from Southampton up to Glasgow, and most of us hadn't met before. So there was a little bit of getting to know each other's strengths and weaknesses, and some adaptation to working together in larger and smaller groups. We all met at MTC a couple of months ago, and that was a great icebreaker. It was really useful for us to all be in the same place and to be able to have the kind of conversations that you can have in person as individuals rather than in a group. As design lead, we were fairly central to the project, so we're fortunate enough to work with most of the groups in different work streams. The closest people we worked with were Don as project manager. He's the great enabler of all conversations, and Alex to some extent. And then Richard Blaine on the technical detailing. Richard's from MTC. And of course working with Christopher Adelaide, who is another architect, and we were very much working together on the aesthetics of the project.
So I'm Chris West, I'm one of the founders of Go Monitor. We're involved in the Doorway project and a number of other Innovate UK projects, primarily to capture data, take measurements from sensors in order to prove the viability of the project and the product itself. So we were particularly excited to be part of the Doorway project purely because of the social impact that the project represents for the community, and we'd love to be able to take our technology and do something positive with it. So really being part of this project has allowed us to integrate a whole fleet of new sensor technologies, pull those together in order to verify these new products, but also think about future use cases for the IoT in social housing and in communities. So for this project we'll be monitoring a number of environmental variables, temperatures, humidities, CO2, temperature inside components and panels. We might be looking at things like heating systems, water flows, solar panel generation, light intensity, and really using all that data to verify a product is actually doing what it says on the tin, and it is saving the customer money, reducing energy, or helping decarbonise a project. We've had a really good experience with this project so far. And in the future, what we'll be doing is working with all of the project members in order to identify full-scale opportunities here. So we're deploying quite a large number of sensors on some of these projects in order to capture a wide data set. But in the future, it may be just 1 or 2 sensors is required for a project in order to help with things like maintenance, fault detection, or to capture data to be used in a wider context like microgrids and other projects like that. So some of the technology that we're deploying on this project are things like this. These are newly developed LoRaWAN transmitters. And what that means is we can deploy a sensor in a property. That sensor will be battery powered and have a long battery life. And it will capture, this particular one will capture things like temperature, humidity, CO2 concentration, something called total volatile organic compounds, which is more like comfort levels and smells in the air, barometric pressure, and light intensity. These will transmit wirelessly, and then in the center of maybe a housing development or a block of flats, we'll have a single gateway. This gateway will pick up around 2,000 of these sensors wirelessly. It'll then transmit the data using 4G back to our software platform, where we can visualize the data, we can start detecting trends and anomalies, we can pass that data to different providers, back to the tenants, back to maintenance providers, or maybe even insurance providers looking for things like flood risk. The applications are incredibly broad and powerful, which presents benefits for a wide range of people, from the tenants all the way up to the insurers and the housing stock owners.
A roof is more than just a roof over your head. A roof is your peace of mind, your health and well-being. A roof is starting your family, building your new business, protecting the things you love. A roof is growing your own vegetables, generating your own power. Whatever a roof is to you, at BMI, we care. And we don't just say it, we show it. We launch innovations like BMI Everguard and Airlocks to give you long-term, industry-leading solutions. We invest in the next generation of roofers through the BMI Academy to make sure your contractors have the best training. We bring different teams and disciplines together to collaborate more effectively and give you complete roofing solutions. We unify our entire portfolio of systems in a new, comprehensive website, so all the information you need for your project is in one place. And we combine some of the biggest brands in roofing into one company, so we can do whatever it takes to make more of your roof. BMI, because it's never just a roof.
Hi Gary.
Oh yeah.
So we've wrangled you into coming and working with us on the Innovate UK project, the Doorway project. Can you just tell me a little bit about why you got involved?
We got involved originally with a new build project, which kind of morphed into the retrofit project. So we've been trying to lend our expertise to the automation side of the project, and trying to give our advice as to how best to actually try and automate the process of building the panels.
Brilliant. So your part of the project then is about the automation of the design?
Yeah, we're not involved in the building industry at all, but we are experts in automation. So from both mechanical design, electronics design, controls design, we would actually design a system to actually put together the panels themselves, and then supply them to the pop-up factory. So from the hub factory. So there would be quite a lot of investment in the hub factory design, which would then enable the pop-up factory to be able to build the parts and adapt them for the building to the attachment to the building.
Yeah, so we've just been talking about that. So we were originally assuming that would be a hub factory that we'd build first, an automated hub factory. Since we've been working on the project, we've realised that actually the design of the pop-up factory and the use of the pop-up factory will teach us what we need to learn in terms of what we can possibly automate.
Yeah, I think there's rather than go straight for the jugular, as it were, and actually go full out automation. I think there's some learning got to be done first to be able to sort of build the parts by hand, see how they best go together, see what the issues are with that before you try and then automate it. Because automation really is involved in standardization of an assembly process. So if you're producing 10,000 of the same part, that's the way you automate it. If you're producing something that's more bespoke, which we're really talking about here with the retrofit panels, then you really are talking about the adaptation of the individual design into something that can be automated, and that's going to be the difficult part, I think, for that.
Okay, so we're going to have a quick look at some of the machining and some of the equipment. Some of it's hush, so I'm gonna switch off now, and we'll come back in a second.
At QM Systems, we operate in all sorts of different industries, from blasting rubber off of tank wheels, for example, right down to checking the inductance of tiny little coils, and everything in between. And the sort of rigs that we have here at the moment are for various industries. There are some building products that we're making, but some of it is for robotic handling, for robotic assembly. We do a lot of different sorts of robotic applications, and I think there's going to have to be a lot of robotics in the hub factory to be able to fully automate it.
What are some of the challenges you think we're going to have to cope with or adapt to, given that you've seen the design, you've seen what we've been doing with Doorway?
Yeah, I think the biggest problem is that every single house is going to be different, and you're actually, instead of producing 10,000 of one thing, you're then going to have every single house, even in a row of 4, they're all going to be slightly different, and you're going to have to adapt the product to fit the individual house. So it's going to really be a bespoke product for that individual house. Now the clever bit is going to be to standardise as much as you can the actual product that you're then adapting to the individual house. And that's going to be the key part, I think, and it's going to be the interface between the scan, the design of the actual panel, and then the manufacturing of it. And it's going to be that link through that's going to be the very clever part.
Okay. Well, great that we've got you on board, Gary. So thank you very much for all your help and all your support. So that's it.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
We are the MTC, one of the most exciting initiatives in manufacturing research and development for the last half a century. We're part of the high-value manufacturing catapult with a vision to inspire great British manufacturing on the global stage. We're passionate about developing tomorrow's industrial solutions today. We're bridging the valley of death between academia and industry by taking the best research and ideas from our universities and turning them into commercial reality. We understand the challenges of investing in the development of new products and processes, and we are here to help reduce that risk. We bring world-leading research and innovations to the UK manufacturing sector, revolutionising how things are made and delivering real-life solutions. We're playing a leading role in the digitisation of manufacturing in the UK and are home to the National Centre for Additive Manufacturing. Through our groundbreaking technologies, we help companies implement new ways of thinking to transform traditional manufacturing practices. And we provide a unique environment to prove their viability in the workplace. Our approach is simple. We take your business challenge, then we combine a team of skilled engineers with world-leading tools and technologies to create an end-to-end solution for you. We have a flexible approach, helping companies in all sectors and of all sizes, from SMEs to global enterprises. Some of the UK's leading global companies are already benefiting from working with us. We're also developing the engineers of the future, providing young people with a first step on the path towards a world-class engineering career through our apprenticeship programme. Whether you want to improve productivity, develop new market opportunities, or implement new skills and technologies, you should be talking to us. We are the MTC. We're inspiring Great British manufacturing.
At the MTC, we're looking to apply manufacturing methods in the construction industry, so we're interested to lead the design of this pop-up factory for Doorway. The purpose of the facility is to assemble custom wall and roof panels and then send them to site with a kit of parts for installation on a property. The facility must also be able to supply the kit of brackets for house preparation in advance of the panels arriving. The panels are cold rolled steel panel with layers of insulation and cladding material fastened back to the steel frame. Each panel is a one-off with a unique combination of outside dimensions, connection points to other panels, windows, doors and cable penetrations, and also cladding options. So we call all of this batch size 1 production or mass customization. Nominal production values are 1,000 houses per year with the pop-up factory. We've assumed an average of 6 panels per house, with the average panel being twice the size of the prototype panel. The facility works for 2 8-hour shifts 5 days a week, and this gives a bit of flex in capacity. The fundamental concept is a temporary facility that can be deployed into a series of rented industrial units and scaled from small projects to large, so small units and large industrial warehouses. Specialist equipment and facilities such as training and logistics buildings are containerised, while in other areas of the facility we can use what's already available. The pop-up factory is contained within 2 buildings. For 1,000 panels a year we'll need 1 of the materials prep buildings on the left and 2 assembly buildings shown on the right. The materials prep building produces panel components with automated machines. We'll also assemble the steel frame over in this building. This kitting area assembles kits of parts for the assembly line, for panel installation, and a separate kit of parts sent in advance for site preparation. There's a red management building in the corner that houses order processing, scheduling and training. And we're flying over the assembly area with 10 manual build cells. Each has 2 workers and one's equipped as a training cell. Finished panels are kept on toast racks and then packed in a packing and goods out area. And together these can hold 1 to 2 days worth of production. So now we have another view of goods inward, stores and kitting. And you can see we've started to populate the facility with people and equipment, just to give a sense of size and scale. The overall build philosophy is to accurately manufacture the kit of parts per panel that can be assembled manually. So we use the accuracy of automated equipment to make the parts and then the flexibility of people to assemble them. We have 4 main areas in the facility. That's the materials preparation, kitting, assembly and packing. In the materials preparation area, we prepare panel materials for assembly using the automated equipment. So we cut and drill all the panel components accurately and assemble into a kit of parts. We go down into the detail in this preparation. So we make all the cutouts in the membrane material, for example, to eliminate all the fitting operations from assembly. So no cutting, no fitting, all the holes are pilot drilled. And the idea is that it's a lot easier to put together. You don't need instructions and you can't make mistakes. So finished components from this preparation area are loaded onto a materials trolley, 1 trolley per panel, and everything will be scanned onto the trolley using barcodes for tracking, and every part will have been marked with a serial number by the cutting machines. Components can only be produced when an empty trolley has been returned from the assembly area and the barcode scanned to retrieve the build files. This system prevents overproduction and it maintains a pool through the facility. If we don't put systems like this in place, what you can see is that people can get too far ahead on the build machines. This leads to a build-up of inventory and kind of clogging up the facility. So in the kitting area, bottom materials such as the helping hand brackets and the large panel-to-panel connections are added to the materials trolley. Again, since we're dealing with this batch size 1, nothing can be retrieved from stores until the trolley is barcode scanned and they know what parts to go and retrieve. The kitting area also assembles bought-out materials for direct shipment to site, both for the pre-assembly of brackets and foundations on the property, and the installation kit that ships with the panels themselves. The assembly cells are sized to accommodate wall and roof panels from the minimum up to the maximum size. The assembly cells, they're predominantly manual, with a rotating build table allowing access to both sides of the panel, and fastener installation equipment. So this keeps the assembly cells flexible and relatively cheap, which is important because we could need quite a lot of them. Window installation will take place in this assembly cell. We'll have portable lift equipment, and we can share that amongst several assembly cells. One potential quality escape is missing or incorrectly installed fasteners. We have an awful lot of these fasteners penetrating different materials. It would be quite easy for someone to miss a fastener or for a fastener to wander. Most of these fasteners are hidden, so they're difficult to see and inspect in the finished product. So as a result, we've included smart tools, which can monitor the number of fasteners installed and the torque during installation. That can then alert the operator of a potential escape. You've not installed enough fasteners, or we've had a strange torque signal, so you've maybe missed the backing material. More generally, we see an opportunity to optimize the panel for assembly, reducing the number of fasteners, or at least the number of fastener types, and reduce the number of components, and find a way to eliminate the turnover operation. I'd say a reasonable target might be to halve the assembly time, and hence the number of assembly stations required. Panels are removed from the assembly cell and loaded into a transport fixture for final inspection and packing. The panels are ganged up onto a toast rack, and this toast rack is lifted as a single piece onto transport to site. This is also where the installation kit matches up with the panels, with items such as the closures and the foundation brackets. In the future, we see an opportunity to build the panel directly onto this transport fixture. At the moment, it's not possible because of the wrapper and VCL on the rear of the panel. We see 1 to 2 days of finished goods storage as reasonable before the number of stored panels becomes difficult to manage on the goods out area. In terms of data, we imagine we'll receive a bill of materials and the required delivery date from a higher level site production planning system. The pop-up factory will manage its own suppliers, resources, and a build schedule, and it will then provide a live delivery estimate back to this planning system. The facility will need to run just in time, so we can only deliver parts to site just when required. The reason is that we'll be running at quite high production volumes relative to the size of the facility, and we won't have the ability to store finished panels if they're not needed at site. So a site delay can quite quickly lead to a backlog in the factory, so we need to try and avoid that by keeping the lead times down. Each panel is also unique, so there's no real option of sending it to a different site, and the on-site storage of panels is difficult in a retrofit situation. The volume of unique parts to keep track of and schedule is quite large. Each panel is unique and each component within the panel is unique. So we'll need an enterprise resource planning system or an ERP system to manage this. We imagine a cloud-based system to increase the flexibility and remove the need to support computer hardware at the pop-up factory. In terms of the workforce, we've assumed a core group of skilled workers will be required to operate and run the factory, and the assembly workers can be recruited locally as required. We've put a separate training area and an assembly cell within the facility, and equipment to project work instructions on the panels in one of these cells. This will help bring people, after the training, bring them up to speed before they can graduate to a normal assembly cell. We've included 2 workers per assembly cell, one per automated machine. So there we go, that's the Doorway project pop-up factory concept. It's the first iteration and we'd expect it to mature and evolve alongside the panel design. I've got to say thanks to the MTC team behind the scenes and the project partners. We've got a real capable group of people here on the Doorway project, and I kind of hope we can keep the momentum going into the next phase. So thanks.
Hi, my name's Christopher Adelaide. I'm actually an architect based in London, and I've been employed by MHG at this stage as a kind of development architect to work with constructive thinking, who are predominantly working on the retrofit sides of this project. We are kind of more new build specialists in a way, and have taken an interest with the idea of building modular or building off-site and building to net zero, looking at the world that we require to have so many more built houses within such a short space of time, and looking at how we could do that, looking at ways and means, and doing it in a beautiful way, because us architects like to design and build things, but behind all that there's great technology, and the team at MHG have been looking at that within the retrofit kind of designs that they've been looking towards. So I got brought in about 3 months ago after having spoken to Alex within the last year, where we've been discussing some interesting things that we're doing on our side at Christopher Adelaide Architecture. I wouldn't say there's one person that I've been linked to. We've been linked to the whole team. It's been a great environment to work in because everybody's excited about what the future could be. So yeah, learning from lots of people, and the fact that it's an innovative project, we're able to push it a little bit further, testing things in different ways, looking at different parts of the process, because of course not one thing will lead to the end product. It's lots of little things, and also one bigger thing, which is, we need to reduce carbon emissions in this country. We need to, in the world, the carbon issue is so great that, if we don't start now and start looking at solutions, we'll be stuck behind. So there's that target for us as members of the Royal Institute of British Architects of 2030, where we've got a climate challenge, and we want to work towards that. There's lots of things going on. So it's all this joint thinking to create, I will call it a product, but create things that we can offer on the market to commercialize and help, manufacture and speed up the process of getting to that net zero carbon point. So yeah, I mean, it's so new and we need to have it happening so quickly. So I think the challenge that we face as an industry is really time, but also collaboration. So it's a matter of things that we've learned or other people have learned. It's collaboration to help the industry as a whole to achieve a greater goal. And I think as MHG and the Doorway project, it's like looking at the first part of this process, but also to bring that process to training up people who can deliver what we're trying to look at. And then through that delivery program that creates new jobs, which is important, especially after COVID, where people have we're losing certain parts of the industry, where we need to kind of regaining it in learning, in skills, and passing those skills to the younger population. The creation of these jobs then will lead to a bigger workforce, a stronger workforce, and a popularity in getting people into work. So once that happens and training happens, they'll be able, within factory environments, let's call it, where lots of people will be able to produce quicker, better, at a higher quality. So it's a way of kind of slightly de-skilling the process, bringing in apprenticeships, younger people who, I think we've got a great young force that can do these things. If we can offer them and they can do the learning, that makes it stronger. but also when people know how to do things, new technologies or new ways of producing things can be found. And I think if we are allowing our younger selves, if it was me for example, and I could go through an apprenticeship and I could learn to build things, the more that you do it, the easier that it becomes, but the fact that more people then can do it, that will help to reduce the time that it takes to potentially take the project that we're doing into the thousands and thousands of properties within the UK that require to be upgraded to help towards this net zero contribution. So yeah, I think a challenge is time, a challenge is learning, but I think if we make it a focus and we're able to teach people, we're able to reskill younger people who maybe had certain types of jobs and need to train in another job, to make that available and make it interesting, make these positions interesting, because I don't think it's just people on the ground building buildings. There's also people developing new ideas, and there's also people designing, such as architects, But my industry, it takes 10 years before you even step in and can call yourself an architect. So is there a way that we can produce technical staff that are able to be part of the process at an earlier stage? So yeah, the challenges are great, but they're not undefeated. Net zero, one, will save people money and will look after our environment. So two of those combined and a better space to live in, I think all that together, we're looking towards a greater future. So yeah, so this is the exciting bit why myself, Alex, and maybe we say MHG and Chris Fradade Architecture kind of started talking in the first place. We were looking at an innovative idea of designing a new build product, and I want to call it a product because it can be repeated. So the idea and what we've called it is the Afro House. So I'll explain what that means. Afro in letters is architecture for the reasonably ordinary. So if you take all those 4 letters, so we're very proud of that, not just because I've got an afro, but because it's something that was built slightly before COVID started, but it was the idea that myself or some of my colleagues and people of our age are unable to afford to live in properties due to the cost of these properties. So the upfront of buildings was becoming so expensive that people were unable to be able to afford to live in it. So it's kind of looking at the social housing element and redefining the idea of social. Now this may be a dream or a pipe dream, but if you could, in a way, design buildings that effectively have exactly the same front door, which equalizes the place that you live, you could share that with everyone. When we think of social, sometimes we think of the lowest denominator. When I say lowest denominator, I don't want to say that as to people, but it's a preference where people may not have jobs or people are not in good employment opportunities. But actually, if you really think what social means, it is everyone. So why can't the doctor or the architect or the civil engineer or anyone also rent a property that somebody who unfortunately doesn't have a job or their placement in life is not necessarily, they're unable to work, that they can't live within a community and create a betterment for housing. It is a difficult process. It is a difficult thing. I mean, we talk about it in London, where people are speaking about the rich door, poor door entrances. It is quite a hard thing, because when one person is purchasing a house for over £400,000 and somebody else is getting it for free or paying a small rental provision towards it, there is a little bit of a kind of degree of inequality. So if we thought about housing, is there a way that maybe we could look at the improvement of housing stock for everyone, that when you live in a housing stock that has that quality involvement, that maybe it ups your way of living or it qualifies it a little bit? So we thought of Afro House, and Afro House is basically a modular solution, built off site, in factories, delivered to site, and basically, equal front door, like I said. So there are quite a few different ideas at the moment, and we're learning from different people about how modules can be created and delivered. There are a few companies already doing it, but the Afro House is a solution in the similar sense that we would have modules, and from the learnings that we would have done from our panels, from the MHG retrofit system, create a net zero house that then would be clad in its own type of elevational treatment. So I made some little models you can see here, which gives you a little bit of an idea about what we're thinking. They are printed on a 3D printer, but in the same idea, you can print it in a color that you feel. When we started looking at the idea of Afro House, we looked at different elements. Could it be ground floor plus first floor 2 bed, ground floor plus 2 floors 3 or 4 bed? So there are different kind of alignments because we would be using these the idea of modules. So the modules will be built off site and then stacked on top of each other. But our idea then pushes that even further. Like I said, we talk about this elevational treatment, which is something we believe removes the kind of stigma of the idea of a modular house, or as they called it in the past, prefabricated house. So we created a pattern book of elevations, which we can show you shortly, that gives a really good element of the fact that if it's built off site, and we know that we've got 3 or 4 different elevational treatments that we do for an approved planning application, we might even be able to create these things and then ship them in and position them onto the buildings, which gives a little bit of choice to the purchaser or to the social housing provider or for the person living there. But also the modules themselves, they will already be ready to be lived in, because all the categories and everything would have already been produced off site. And because they're the same module, we're able to understand what the costs are before they leave a factory. So to a point, we're able to cost out everything from those modular components. So the idea of having something that's built off site, ready for the 2050 target of being net zero, utilizing all the new technologies that you're able to do off your mobile phones, monitoring the quality that you're getting, air, CO2, carbon emissions and everything in the house. We're able to collect then all that data and then produce even a better house. It's a bit like the cars, you get all this information back and then later you produce a better version of the version that you may have positioned. So the great thing about this is that when it's a module, it's repeatable, and we can build, great ideas off it. We can create sites that we've thought ahead of how the communities will be based, thinking about gardens, facing the buildings in an orientation that allows better light into the spaces, being able to use renewable technologies such as solar panels, air source, heat pumps, etc., just to name a few. But then all those things will create a more comfortable house to live in. So that will help also in the future to this idea of fuel poverty, because you'll be reducing your use of energy in the house. You'll be able to see where you're producing more carbon emittance, but because the house has been designed not to do this, you're able to save on the energy you use. This will also take us to the next step, that you've got a house that you're able to kind of condition. There'll be elements of it that has furniture, etc., to help with fuel poverty. So hopefully, looking towards the future, these will be able to create new communities, take people out of maybe houses that they're living in, which is not at a quality that's acceptable for living in. If they've got families, then their families will be able to grow around other families, which will hopefully, when one kid plays with another kid, their friend goes to this school, they go to that school, they talk to each other. It improves each other's lives. So it's kind of like a community idea as well as a building idea. And then if you commercialize this idea, we can find sites and we can start to develop this. So if it's built off site, we know, and we've designed a layout, we're able to come, drop these houses one by one in their place, build them with a lot more speed. We know that we've removed the issues of like on-site traditional construction, weather, if it's raining you can't work, if it snows you can't work, if it's too hot you can't work. You remove all that because you're working within factory conditions, and then you create like I said, with our pattern book, our Afro elevations, you come in and you're able to choose, working with the planning authority, different elevations that we can then make a beautiful housing style that can equate for everyone living there.
Homeowners can expect, I suppose, an instant improvement in their life, because we're going to bring them warmth, we're going to bring them energy savings, and we're going to bring them a way to be able to monitor how they're using their energy, which is not so invasive in their homes. So what we intend to have is an app that they can just go on their phone and they can see where they're wasting energy, which could be their water usage, their power usage, and they can adjust their lifestyles to better the planet and keep more money in their pocket. The next steps for Doorway is going to be installing it on people's homes. And I'm so excited about that part, because that's when we get to see the actual change that it's going to make in people's lives. So I know initially we'll probably only put it on to a few people's houses, so only a few people will get to benefit from it initially, but eventually the hope is that we're going to put it on thousands of homes all up and down the Midlands, hopefully all over the country eventually, and it will just have a positive impact on everyone's life, and it will make me feel good as well, just to know I had some part to do with that.
ACOX Greener we started just over a year ago. Just in time to be hit by lockdowns. When we had moved into our house and made the changes to it to try to make it more eco-friendly, then we thought that actually climate change is something that's really serious, and we didn't see enough happening around us in Birmingham. We wanted to try to make ACOX Green ready for climate change, because I knew from my own life and from my family's life that global warming is real. It's something that's happening. It's measurable by my own observation. So we had made changes to our house, but we wanted to try to make it so that ACOX Green could also start to change. And ACOX Green is actually very interesting. It is absolutely average Birmingham. It is typical within 1% of its average ethnic makeup, of its average age makeup, of the average income. If you look at the list of deprivation, then there are 69 wards in Birmingham, and ACOX Green is halfway up at number 34 in terms of deprivation. However, ACOX Green is different in a major respect, which is the community associations. It has astonishingly strong and rich ones. So, for example, Foxholly's Community Association has just been awarded last year the Queen's Award for Voluntary Associations. We have a neighbourhood forum which is very active. We have a focus group which is very active. We have a business improvement district which is active. We have a history association. We have Village in Bloom, which has won gold for the last 5 years, etc., etc. And we also, and perhaps as a result of that, have very good local councillors as well, who are active and good and everything one could look for.
I'm Maxine, and I'm one of Nigel's neighbours from the flats next door.
So you're a resident of the local area?
Yeah, yeah.
And can you tell me a little bit about yourself, sort of how long you've been here?
I've lived here since 2002. I live on my own. Don't work or anything like that. That's it basically. There's not much to say about myself. But
So is it a council house?
yeah, it's a council flat, yeah, 1 bedroom council flat.
And could you talk to us a little bit about your home, sort of what it's like in the winter and things like that?
In the winter, it's really, really cold. you can have the fire on, the central heating on, and it's just not working because all the radiators are under the window and the heat just goes out, so you're having it on but you're not benefit from it anyway. Gas fire I can't have on for too long because I've got OPCD and asthma, and that drives me out a lot, so can't have it on. But in summertime it can get too warm, if you know what I mean, but winter time's dreadful, it's not nice at all. So.
And does it cost a lot of money to be running?
I'm topping up quite a lot because I'm on a gas card and electric card, so in winter time I'm topping up maybe £50–60 just to get through, and that's like every 2 weeks I'm having to do that, so it works out quite expensive, even more sometimes.
And what difference would it make to you to have the kinds of modifications that Nigel has in his home?
Lower bills, I've been told. I mean, I don't understand it that well because I'm not that brainy, but it sounds like it's a good thing and it'd be lower bills and your water and your gas, which sounds like a good thing to me. I have COPD and I have asthma. I also had to have an operation on my throat because they found a lump on my windpipe, so that had to be removed, which makes it a bit more harder to breathe anyway. And you know, in the winter when it gets cold, that can bring on a lot of stuff as well. And my health hasn't been that good, to be honest. I'm going to be honest, I've got mental health problems as well, you know, but I love my little home, I do, and the neighbours and everything, and that they're always there for me and stuff, but it can be hard sometimes when an attack comes on.
And I imagine living in a cold, damp home.
It doesn't help at all. It doesn't help, especially, like I just said, with the cold and everything, it can make it a lot worse, get chest infections and stuff, which can be, you know, you can be off going to hospital with them because you just can't breathe.
And that probably affects you as well, the stress, it's probably quite stressful.
Yeah, which I have had a few hospital admissions, as you know. So, yeah.
So if your house was warm and dry, that'd make a big difference.
It would make a big difference because you wouldn't be getting the cold on your chest. And sometimes in the mornings when it's cold, I get up and my nose is running anyway because it's cold. You know, you're having to sit on the settee with your duvet and stuff because you can't get it warm.
This project, if you all had it, it wouldn't just be affecting one person, it'd be affecting the community.
It would benefit us all, not just me or Barry, it would benefit all of us, yeah. I just think everybody would get on board with it. You know, when you just don't know quite a lot about it and stuff. You know, with me, I get confused about what goes over my head. But it sounds a good project, and if it can save you money and give you proper ventilation and stuff, then why not?
This is the outside of our house. You can see the 10 centimetres of external wall insulation that we've put on, and in addition to that, you can see above the photovoltaic cells on the roof. Now these are the 4 facing south. On the flat roof at the back there's another 12, and so that is what provides us with free electricity, and that's the outside of our house. You can also see the 2 air vents, one sucking and one blowing, just on the roof, and in between the 2 inside the house is the heat exchange between the incoming cold air and the outgoing stale warm air. And then next door to our house we have the council flats. Our house was built as a council house as part of the same block. We have 6 council flats right next door, and they all have agreed to be part of this project in order to upgrade the houses, and so we'll put external wall insulation and on the roof as well, and we'll have mechanical ventilation, and we hope that we'll have photovoltaics as well, so that all the things that we've been able to do with ours, now we can get funding to do for the council homes. Acox Green is about 36,000 people, and it's a mix, very big mix. About half of the housing was built as council houses in the 30s and the 50s. Then there's as well a lot of Victorian and Edwardian terraces. There's some big Victorian villas. A lot of them have now been subdivided into flats. There's some arts and crafts houses from about 1910, 1920. And then there's quite a lot of modern housing as well. So it's a big mix. There's no way that we can get Acox Green ready for climate change by just building new houses. It would take us at least a century to replace all of the housing that we have. And it would be awful because we've got some lovely houses. What we need to do is to retrofit the houses like we've done in this house in order to make it eco-friendly, ready for the coming environmental catastrophes. And what we've done in this house, if we can do it in an absolutely standard 1958 council house like this, then we can do it in all the other standard council houses, 1930s, 1950s, 1960s, etc. And that's what we want to do. And what we want is that we can do it with our neighbours. We can do it using this Midlands High Growth project to show that it can be done cheaply and effectively and with a mix of council houses and private houses, because all of the council estates now are a mix of privately owned under right to buy and also council owned. So we want to not only insulate and ventilate, we also want to have ground source heat pump, which will be shared between a whole lot of houses, and that will provide the hot water, which will then allow us to not use gas to heat our water. It'll be hot water for heating and hot water for washing, and that's what our aim is. The project is called Risk 3. It's retrofit ready, supply chain, communities and careers, and it's with 3 major partners. Acox Green are partnering together with Tin Smart Social and also Midlands High Growth, which is associated with Tin Smart Social, and also Sustainable Housing Action Partnership, SHAP. And so the 3 partners together are working to develop retrofit ready, get communities ready, and we're working in 3 different cities of West Midlands. We're working in Birmingham, which is Acox Greener. We're working in Walsall, and we're working in Wolverhampton. what we want to do is a whole lot of different things, which will mean that when eventually funding becomes available to retrofit homes, we're already there. So it's about getting the living lab part going, getting the kids learning about the computing and about the environmental science and building their own home environmental monitoring stations and installing them. It's going to include a pilot demonstration of our neighbouring council flats and us all sharing a ground source heat pump, but also them having insulation and ventilation, and with any luck also with photovoltaics on the roof, so that they become like our houses. And that way we will have a demonstration project, what a little batch of council houses, how easy it is, how straightforward it is to transform them, to make them really comfortable, to make them cheap to run and really healthy, and with happy dwellers.
One of the key points that we've been looking at across the course of the Innovate UK project, and also the business case that we started off with the West Midlands Combined Authority, was how do we engage local people in the conversation, but not just as recipients or receivers of the solutions that we're talking about, but actually people who co-design it with us, who are actively part of what we're doing, and actually celebrating their involvement and the impacts of what we are trying to do on their homes and their lives. Yeah, so we've been trying to engage local people in how we can improve their homes, their lives, their opportunities for employability and employment. So really have as major impact as we can on the local communities. So we've devised LifeWorks Festival. The LifeWorks Festival is really talking about telling the stories of good, how local people have engaged with what we're doing, what they think about it, what they, do they support it? We're actively asking their opinion on materials, on how the products would be able to fit into their home. Do they want it? How could we do things better? Those young people who we're talking to about potentially being part of the training and the installation or the manufacturing of the products, we're actually asking their opinion on what we think, how would they best learn? What is the best environment? So we're really trying to harvest as much information, if you like, and engage with local people in a meaningful way, in a way that they think is meaningful. So really, I would love you to all get involved with LifeWorks Festival, have a look out for it. And these stories of good really are about the community and how that's coming, the opportunities that we're bringing to them come to life. LifeWorks is the home of happiness. 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 LifeWorks is
an ongoing celebration, here to sing, dance and shout about initiatives that tackle social issues in a way that generates real change. Change that makes life work better for people across the UK.
LifeWorks celebrates people who champion digital inclusion, beating fuel poverty, becoming sustainable and enabling social mobility. Like DigiSheds, who train disadvantaged young people to work in digital and taking them on the journey to the job. So LifeWorks can change the way that work works. Well, maybe not this much.
LifeWorks celebrates Midlands high growth who are helping families by making their homes warmer. Thank you.
You won't be needing that anymore.
Here to talk about LifeWorks Festival, a story engine created by Team Smart Social for sharing stories and celebrating and showcasing the happiness they create in their social impact work.
Accessibility and diversity is at the heart of LifeWorks. And that's worth celebrating.
Wow, LifeWorks really knows how to do that immersive innovation thing, finding new ways to tell our stories.
We aspire to connect everyone with our vision for long-term sustainable community impact. These stories have to be told because they create hope and belief in a better future. LifeWorks is a megaphone to broadcast the story of good.
LifeWorks is
digital inclusion,
connectivity,
Stories,
Accessibility, helping families.
LifeWorks is the home of happiness. Did I get it right?
LifeWorks is the home of happiness.